The Galactic Council's Dilemma. The grand halls of the Galactic Council shimmered with a kaleidoscope of lights from distant stars, casting long shadows across the towering pillars that lined the chamber. This was the heart of interstellar governance, where the most pressing matters of the galaxy were debated and decided. Today, the atmosphere was thick with tension, for the topic at hand was one that stirred deep emotions and ancient fears, whether to ban humans from participating in interstellar wars. Ambassador George Powell stood at the edge of the central podium, his gaze steady as he surveyed the assembly before him. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy were present, an array of beings, each more unique than the last. The air buzzed with murmurs, the alien languages intertwining like a symphony of unease. Powell knew the weight of the moment, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. Humanity's role in the broader cosmic community was at stake. A controversial debate begins. As the session commenced, Judge Grow, an imposing figure from the Orient species, banged the gavel to bring order. His stern expression was legendary, and Powell could feel the weight of the judge's gaze as he prepared to speak. "Ambassador Powell, the floor is yours," Grow intoned, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. Powell took a deep breath and began. "Honorable members of the Galactic Council, I stand before you today, not just as a representative of Earth, but as a member of a species that has fought hard to earn its place among the stars." His voice was calm, yet each word carried a sense of urgency. Humanity's past is filled with conflict, yes, but it is also a history of growth, of learning from our mistakes, and of striving to create a future where peace prevails. The council listened intently, some with skepticism, others with curiosity. Powell continued, "We are not here to justify war, but to argue that the experience we have gained, the lessons we have learned, can be a force for stability in the galaxy. To ban humans from military roles would not only be a disservice to us, but to the very fabric of galactic unity." The opposition's counterargument. As Powell finished his opening statement, the floor was handed over to the opposition. A tall, spindly creature from the Arctan species, Prosecutor Trellix, rose to speak. His translucent skin shimmered under the lights, and his voice was sharp, each word slicing through the air. "The history of humanity is a litany of violence," he began, his tone cold. "Your species has escalated conflicts, destroyed civilizations, and brought devastation on a scale we have never seen before." A series of holographic images flickered into view, displaying scenes of destruction. Cities reduced to rubble, starships torn apart, and planets scarred by warfare. The council members watched in silence, their expressions unreadable. "These are the consequences of human intervention," Trellix continued. "And this is why we must prohibit humans from wielding such power in our galaxy." Powell's defense. Powell listened to the accusations with a calm demeanor, but inside, he knew that this was a pivotal moment. When it was his turn to respond, he spoke with conviction. "Yes, humanity has a history of war, but we have also been peacemakers, defenders of the innocent, and pioneers of diplomacy." He called upon witnesses to support his case. A veteran from the amphibious Freelian species took the stand, recounting a battle where human soldiers had saved his entire battalion from annihilation. His testimony was vivid, filled with respect for the humans who had fought alongside him. "Without their quick thinking and bravery, we would have been lost," the Freelian general said, his voice filled with emotion. "They fought not out of aggression, but to protect us." Next, Powell presented a human medic, who spoke of the field hospitals where she had treated both human and alien soldiers. Her words painted a picture of shared suffering and solidarity. "In those moments, there was no us and them," she said softly. "There were only beings in need, and we did everything we could to save lives, regardless of where they came from." The council's growing unease. As the testimonies unfolded, the atmosphere in the chamber began to shift. The council members, who had initially been wary of Powell's arguments, now seemed more contemplative. The human side of the story, The compassion, the courage, the commitment to peace was starting to resonate. However, Trellix was not done. He presented footage of a human-led operation that had gone disastrously wrong, resulting in significant collateral damage. The images were stark, and the council reacted with alarm. This is the unpredictability of human involvement, Trellix argued. They are a danger not just to their enemies, but to everyone around them. A battle of perspectives. Powell was quick to counter. The incident you saw was a tragedy, and it was a result of decisions made under extreme pressure, he said, his tone solemn. But it was also an exception, not the rule. The vast majority of our operations are conducted with the utmost care for all involved. He brought forward a series of declassified documents and reports from military ethics experts, showing that Earth's forces adhered to some of the strictest rules of engagement in the galaxy. We have learned from our past, Powell emphasized. We do not seek war, but we do not shy away from defending those who cannot defend themselves. The emotional core of the argument. As the day wore on, the debate became less about strategy and more about the essence of what it meant to be human. Powell spoke of humanity's journey, how they had evolved from a species constantly at war with itself to one that now sought to protect and preserve life. Our strength lies not just in our weapons, but in our capacity for empathy, for understanding, and for cooperation, he said. He highlighted the importance of unity in the galaxy, warning that excluding humans could lead to resentment and division. We are stronger together, Powell urged. Let us build a future where all species, including humans, can contribute to the safety and prosperity of our galaxy. The council retires to deliberate. As Powell concluded his defense, the chamber fell into a hushed silence. The council members retreated to deliberate, leaving the galaxy watching and waiting. Outside the council chambers, across countless worlds, beings of all species tuned in to follow the proceedings. The outcome would not only determine humanity's role in the galaxy, but would set a precedent for how conflicts and cooperation were managed in the future. Powell stood by the podium, his heart racing despite his composed exterior. He had done everything he could. Now it was up to the council. The weight of history hung heavy in the air, and the galaxy held its breath. The verdict approaches. The fate of humanity's place in the galaxy was now in the hands of the Galactic Council. The deliberation could last minutes or days, but one thing was certain. Whatever the decision, it would echo through the stars for generations to come. Powell could only hope that the seeds of understanding he had sown would grow into a resolution that celebrated diversity, cooperation, and the shared goal of peace across the galaxy. The testimonies begin. The gathering of evidence. In the heart of the Galactic Council's main chamber, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. The previous day's debate had left the council members with more questions than answers, and now they were eager to hear the testimonies that would shed light on the complex issue of human involvement in interstellar warfare. Ambassador George Powell, representing Earth, stood ready, aware that the next phase of the trial would be crucial in swaying the opinions of the council. Judge Groh, the stern Orion arbiter presiding over the trial, called the session to order. His deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber as he introduced the witnesses who would provide their testimonies. The first to speak was General Threkos, a seasoned military leader from the amphibious Zolorian species. His presence commanded respect, and his years of experience were evident in the way he carried himself. A veteran's perspective. General Threkos began his testimony by recounting a harrowing battle that had taken place on the frozen moon of Zarnak V. His forces had been on the brink of annihilation, surrounded by a numerically superior enemy. Just when all seemed lost, a contingent of human soldiers had arrived, led by a young but fiercely determined captain. The humans had used unconventional tactics, leveraging the icy terrain to their advantage and turning the tide of the battle. Threkos spoke with admiration about the bravery and ingenuity of the human soldiers, highlighting how their intervention had saved not only his forces, but also the lives of countless civilians. As he spoke, a holographic display projected images of the battle, showing the human soldiers in action. The council members watched in silence, some nodding in approval while others remained skeptical. When Thrakos finished his testimony, he looked directly at Ambassador Powell and offered a deep nod of respect, acknowledging the crucial role humans had played in that battle. Personal stories of unity. Next, Powell called upon a series of individuals whose lives had been touched by human involvement in the galaxy. The first to take the stand was Dr. Elena Vasquez, a human medic who had served on multiple interstellar missions. She spoke about her experiences treating both human and alien soldiers in field hospitals, often in the midst of chaotic and dangerous situations. Her stories were filled with moments of compassion and humanity, where the lines between species blurred, and the focus was solely on saving lives. Following Dr. Vasquez was a young alien named Kalar, whose planet had been liberated from an oppressive regime by a coalition of forces led by humans. Kalar's voice trembled with emotion as he recounted how the humans had risked their lives to free his people, and how their acts of kindness and bravery had left a lasting impression on him and his fellow citizens. His testimony was powerful, painting a picture of humans not as conquerors, but as protectors and allies. The opposition strikes back. However, the opposition was not about to let these testimonies go unchallenged. The Arctan prosecutor, who had previously presented damning evidence against human involvement, now unveiled new footage. The holographic display shifted to show a different side of human military operations, a covert mission gone wrong on a civilian-populated asteroid. The footage depicted the aftermath of the mission, with buildings in ruins and innocent lives lost. The prosecutor's argument was clear. Humans, while capable of great heroism, were also prone to catastrophic mistakes that could have far-reaching consequences. Ambassador Powell did not flinch as the prosecutor pressed his point. Instead, he calmly requested permission to respond. When granted the floor, Powell presented a series of declassified documents and battle analysis, reports that provided context for the failed mission. He explained that the operation had been an outlier, a rare instance where unforeseen circumstances had led to unintended consequences. Moreover, he highlighted the rigorous rules of engagement that Earth's forces adhered to, rules that were often more stringent than those of other galactic powers. He emphasized that while mistakes were inevitable in war, the overall record of human involvement showed a strong commitment to minimizing collateral damage and protecting civilian lives. Shifting perceptions. As the testimonies continued, a subtle shift began to take place within the council chamber. The stories of human bravery and sacrifice started to resonate with some of the delegates, challenging their preconceived notions. Even those who had been staunchly opposed to human involvement found themselves reconsidering their positions in light of the compelling evidence presented. One particularly moving testimony came from Admiral Chtar, a member of the insectoid Michaelan species, who described a joint operation where human and Michaelan forces had worked together to prevent a massive space station from being overrun by hostile forces. The operation had been a success, and a collaboration between the two species had forged strong bonds of friendship and mutual respect. Admiral Chtar spoke of the deep trust that had developed between the human and Michaelan soldiers, and how this trust had been crucial in ensuring the success of the mission. A turning point. As the day drew to a close, it was clear that the testimonies had made a significant impact. The council members were now faced with a more nuanced understanding of the issue at hand. The idea that humans were too dangerous to be allowed in interstellar conflicts was being challenged by the evidence of their positive contributions and the deep relationships they had built with other species. Ambassador Powell knew that the battle was far from over, but he also recognized that the tide was beginning to turn. The testimonies had provided a human face to the issue, highlighting the complex and multifaceted nature of human involvement in the galaxy. As the session adjourned, Powell allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The road ahead would be difficult, but he was confident that with perseverance and continued dialogue, a resolution could be reached that would allow humans to continue playing a vital role in the galaxy's future. Preparing for the next stage. With the testimonies concluded, The council members retired to their quarters to ponder the evidence they had heard. Powell, too, returned to his chambers, where he began to prepare for the next stage of the trial. He knew that the opposition would not give up easily, and that the coming days would bring new challenges and arguments. But he also knew that the testimonies had planted seeds of doubt in the minds of the council members, seeds that, with careful nurturing, could grow into a decision that recognized the value of human involvement in the galaxy. As Powell reviewed his notes and strategized for the next session, he felt a renewed sense of determination. The stakes were high, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. The outcome of this trial would set a precedent for how humanity would be viewed and treated by the galactic community for generations to come. With that weight on his shoulders, Powell resolved to fight with all the diplomatic skill and moral conviction he could muster. The next phase of the trial would be critical, but for now, he allowed himself a brief moment of rest, knowing that the battle was far from over. The testimonies had been powerful, but the ultimate decision still hung in the balance. Tomorrow would bring new opportunities to advocate for humanity, and Powell was determined to seize them. The council reconvenes. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with anticipation as the members filed back in for the third day of the trial. The testimonies from the previous day had left a lasting impact, and the atmosphere was charged with tension. Ambassador George Powell could sense that the council members were still processing the powerful narratives they had heard, but he also knew that the opposition was preparing to strike back with renewed vigor. Judge Groh called the session to order, his presence as commanding as ever. He reminded the council that today's proceedings would focus on the counterarguments presented by those who opposed human involvement in interstellar conflicts. The Arctan prosecutor, known for his meticulous and relentless approach, was ready to lead the charge. The prosecutor's case. The prosecutor began his presentation with a calm, calculated tone. He acknowledged the bravery and ingenuity of humans that had been highlighted in the testimonies, but he quickly shifted the focus to what he described as the darker side of human nature. He argued that while humans were capable of great heroism, they were also prone to extreme violence, unpredictability, and a willingness to take risks that other species found unacceptable. To support his argument, the prosecutor introduced a series of historical incidents where human actions had led to catastrophic outcomes. The holographic display showed images of devastated planets, ruined ecosystems, and the aftermath of wars where human forces had played a central role. The prosecutor emphasized that these incidents were not isolated, but rather indicative of a pattern of behavior that posed a significant threat to the stability of the galaxy. One of the key examples he presented was the destruction of the planet Krylon, a tragedy that had occurred decades earlier. A human-led coalition had been tasked with liberating the planet from a tyrannical regime, but the mission had gone horribly wrong. A miscommunication had led to a full-scale bombardment, resulting in the loss of millions of lives and the permanent destabilization of the planet's ecosystem. The prosecutor used this example to argue that humans were too reckless and dangerous to be entrusted with the responsibility of interstellar warfare. A call for caution. The prosecutor then called upon several witnesses who had been directly affected by human actions. The first to speak was High Minister Zara of the Velaran people, whose home planet had been caught in the crossfire of a human-led military operation. Zara's testimony was filled with bitterness and resentment as she recounted how her people had suffered as collateral damage in a conflict that they had no part in. She described the devastation left behind by the human forces and how it had taken decades for her planet to recover. Following Zara was Commander Telruk, a veteran of the Netheri species, who had fought alongside human forces in several campaigns. Telruk's testimony was more balanced, acknowledging the effectiveness of human soldiers, but also expressing deep concern about their tendency to disregard established protocols and take unnecessary risks. He described a mission where a human captain had defied direct orders, leading to a successful outcome, but at the cost of significant casualties. Telruk argued that while humans could be effective allies, their unpredictability made them dangerous to work with. The debate heats up. As the prosecutor continued to present his case, the council chamber grew increasingly tense. The arguments against human involvement were compelling, and several council members who had been swayed by the previous day's testimonies now appeared conflicted. Ambassador Powell listened carefully, noting the points that would require a strong rebuttal. He knew that the prosecutor was deliberately focusing on the worst examples of human behavior, but he also understood that these examples could not be dismissed out of hand. When the prosecutor finished his presentation, he concluded with a stern warning to the council. "We cannot afford to ignore the risks posed by human involvement in our galaxy's affairs," he declared. "While they may possess admirable qualities, their history of violence and recklessness makes them a liability we cannot afford. I urge this council to consider the long-term consequences of allowing humans to play a role in interstellar conflicts." Powell's response. With the opposition's case now laid out, it was Ambassador Powell's turn to respond. He rose from his seat, his expression composed but determined. He began by acknowledging the pain and suffering caused by the incidents the prosecutor had highlighted. "The tragedies you've presented are real, and I do not seek to diminish the losses that have been suffered," Powell stated. "But it is important to remember that these incidents represent the exceptions, not the rule." Powell then shifted the focus to the broader context of human involvement in the galaxy. He presented a series of reports and testimonies from allied species who had fought alongside humans in various conflicts. These reports painted a picture of a species that, while imperfect, was committed to learning from its mistakes and striving to improve. Powell emphasized that humans had developed increasingly stringent rules of engagement over the years, designed specifically to minimize the risks that had been highlighted by the prosecutor. He also pointed out that many of the incidents the prosecutor had presented were from earlier in human history, when Earth was still finding its place in the galaxy. "Humanity has evolved," Powell argued. "We have learned from our past, and we are constantly working to become better allies and stewards of peace. The examples you've seen today are not indicative of who we are now, but of who we were in a time of uncertainty and growing pains." The council's dilemma. As Powell spoke, he could see the effect his words were having on the council members. Some nodded in agreement, while others remained visibly conflicted. It was clear that the prosecutor's arguments had struck a chord, but Powell was determined to remind the council of the positive impact humans had made on the galaxy as well. He concluded his rebuttal with a powerful statement. "Yes, humans have made mistakes, as have all species represented in this chamber. But we have also shown an extraordinary capacity for growth, compassion, and cooperation. We are not a perfect species, but we are a species that strives to be better. And I believe that the galaxy is stronger when we work together, as partners and allies, rather than as adversaries." With that, Powell returned to his seat, his heart pounding. He knew that the outcome of this trial was still uncertain, and that the council's decision would be heavily influenced by the arguments presented in the coming days. But he also knew that he had done everything in his power to present a balanced and compelling case for humanity. The council deliberates. As the session adjourned for the day, the council members retreated to their private chambers to begin their deliberations. The evidence and arguments presented on both sides were complex and multifaceted, and the decision they faced was not an easy one. The future of humanity's role in the galaxy hung in the balance, and the weight of that responsibility weighed heavily on the council members. Ambassador Powell returned to his quarters, exhausted but resolute. The next few days would be critical, and he knew that every argument, every testimony, and every piece of evidence would play a crucial role in shaping the final decision. For now, all he could do was prepare for the challenges ahead and hope that the council would see the value in continuing to include humanity in the interstellar community. As the stars outside his window twinkled in the vastness of space, Powell allowed himself a moment of reflection. The road ahead was uncertain, but he was determined to navigate it with the same courage and resilience that had defined humanity's journey through the stars. The trial was far from over, but Powell knew that the final verdict would be one that would resonate throughout the galaxy for generations to come. The unexpected twist. A new development. The fourth day of the trial began with an air of anticipation. The previous day's arguments had left the council members in a state of deep contemplation, and there was a sense that the scales could tip in either direction. Ambassador George Powell had spent the night preparing for the next round of discussions, knowing that the opposition would likely intensify their efforts to exclude humanity from interstellar conflicts. As the council members gathered in the chamber, Judge Groh announced a surprise development. A new witness, previously unmentioned in the proceedings, had requested to speak. This witness, the judge explained, was not from any of the known species represented in the council, but claimed to possess critical information that could influence the trial's outcome. Curiosity rippled through the chamber as a cloaked figure stepped forward, their features obscured by a hood. The figure moved with a quiet confidence, and as they reached the center of the chamber, they lowered their hood to reveal an androgynous face with striking silver eyes. The council members exchanged puzzled glances. This was a species none of them had encountered before, the mysterious witness. The figure introduced themselves as Cora, a representative of the Aethran, a reclusive and highly advanced species that had remained hidden from the galactic community for millennia. Cora's presence immediately captivated the room, and even the most skeptical council members leaned forward, eager to hear what this enigmatic being had to say. Cora began by explaining that the Aethran had observed the galaxy from the shadows, intervening only when absolutely necessary. They had chosen to remain hidden to avoid influencing the natural development of other species, but the current trial had compelled them to step into the light. "We have seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations," Cora stated, their voice calm yet resonant. "We have witnessed wars, alliances, and the growth of your galactic community. But never before have we felt the need to reveal ourselves, until now. A hidden history." Cora then revealed that the Aethran had a deep and ancient connection with humanity. Long before the formation of the Galactic Council, the Aethran had encountered early human civilizations on Earth. They had watched as humanity struggled, grew, and eventually reached the stars. According to Cora, the Aethran had been silently guiding humanity's development, subtly influencing key moments in history to ensure that humans would survive and thrive. The revelation stunned the council members, including Ambassador Powell, who had never heard of such a connection. Cora continued, explaining that the Aethran saw great potential in humanity, a potential that was unmatched by any other species in the galaxy. "Humans possess a unique combination of qualities," Cora explained. "You are resilient, creative, and capable of great compassion, but you are also driven by an insatiable curiosity and a willingness to challenge the status quo. These traits make you both formidable and unpredictable." Cora went on to describe several instances where the Aethran had intervened to prevent humanity from making catastrophic mistakes. One such example was during the Cuban Missile Crisis on Earth, where Aethran technology had subtly influenced key decisions to avoid nuclear war. Another instance was during humanity's first contact with an alien species, where the Aethran had ensured that the encounter would not lead to immediate conflict. The Aethran's warning. While Cora's revelations painted humanity in a positive light, they also came with a warning. The Aethran had observed that humanity's potential for greatness was matched by an equally great capacity for self-destruction. Cora cautioned the Council that if humanity were to be excluded from the galactic community, it could lead to a dangerous isolationism that might drive humans to seek power through other, less cooperative means. "The Aethran have guided humanity for centuries, but we cannot do so forever," Cora said solemnly. "The time has come for humans to take their place among the stars, not as isolated outcasts, but as full members of the galactic community. However, you must do so with wisdom and restraint, for the path ahead is fraught with challenges that will test the very fabric of your species." The Council reacts. Cora's testimony left the Council in a state of shock. The idea that an ancient and advanced species had been guiding humanity's development was both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Many Council members struggled to process the implications of this revelation, while others began to question the validity of the prosecutor's arguments. Ambassador Powell, who had been blindsided by Cora's appearance, quickly regained his composure. He saw an opportunity in Cora's testimony, a chance to shift the narrative in humanity's favor. Rising to address the council, Powell spoke with renewed conviction. "What we have just heard is a testament to the unique role that humanity can play in the galaxy," Powell began. "Yes, we have our flaws, but we also have the potential to grow, to learn, and to contribute to the greater good of the galactic community. The Aethran have seen this potential, and they have taken great risks to ensure that we are here today. I ask this council to consider not only the past mistakes of humanity, but also the future that we can help build together. A new direction." As the session adjourned for the day, the atmosphere in the council chamber was one of deep contemplation. Cora's unexpected testimony had introduced a new dimension to the trial, one that could not be easily dismissed. The council members retreated to their private quarters, each wrestling with the weight of the decision before them. Ambassador Powell returned to his quarters with a renewed sense of purpose. He knew that the final days of the trial would be critical, and that Cora's testimony had given humanity a fighting chance. But he also understood that the council's decision would ultimately depend on how effectively he could build on the momentum created by the Aethran's intervention. As Powell prepared for the next day's proceedings, he couldn't help but wonder what other surprises the trial might hold. The stakes were higher than ever, and the outcome would shake the future of humanity's place in the galaxy. But for the first time in days, Powell felt a glimmer of hope. The path ahead was uncertain, but with allies both seen and unseen, humanity might just emerge victorious. The final arguments. A day of tension. The fifth day of the trial dawned with a heavy sense of anticipation. The previous day's revelations had shaken the Galactic Council to its core, leaving both supporters and detractors of humanity uncertain about what lay ahead. As the council members filed into the chamber, there was a palpable tension in the air. The trial had reached a critical juncture, and everyone knew that the final arguments would determine the outcome. Ambassador George Powell felt the weight of the moment as he took his seat. The unexpected appearance of Cora, the Aethran representative, had provided a much-needed boost to humanity's case. But Powell also knew that the prosecutor, Stories0812, would not back down easily. She was a seasoned veteran of the council, and her reputation for dismantling opposition arguments was well earned. Judge Groh called the session to order, his voice commanding the attention of everyone present. "We have heard testimony from both sides, as well as from an unexpected source," he began. "Today, we will hear the final arguments. I remind all present that this council's decision will have far-reaching consequences, not only for humanity, but for the entire galactic community." Stories0812's final argument. Stories0812 stood first, her presence as imposing as ever. She began by acknowledging the impact of Cora's testimony, but she quickly pivoted to a more aggressive stance. "Esteemed members of the council," she began, her voice steady and firm, "yesterday's testimony from the Aethran representative was indeed surprising. However, we must not allow ourselves to be swayed by emotion or by the mystique of an ancient and secretive species. The facts remain. Humanity has a history of violence, unpredictability, and a dangerous propensity for self-destruction." She then launched into a detailed analysis of humanity's past conflicts, citing specific examples where humans had acted impulsively or destructively. She emphasized the potential threat that humans could pose if they were allowed to participate fully in the galactic community without proper oversight. "Cora may speak of humanity's potential," Valora continued, "but potential alone is not enough. We must consider the risks. What happens when a species as volatile as humanity gains access to advanced technology, weapons, and resources? The galaxy cannot afford to be reckless. We must prioritize the safety and stability of all species." Valora's argument was compelling, and many council members nodded in agreement. She concluded by urging the council to adopt a policy of containment and careful monitoring for humanity, rather than full integration into the galactic community. Ambassador Powell's rebuttal. When it was Powell's turn to speak, He rose with a sense of determination. He knew that Valora's arguments were persuasive, but he also knew that the council needed to see humanity in a different light. "Honorable members of the council," Powell began, his voice carrying a tone of resolve, "I understand the concerns that have been raised. Yes, humanity has a complex history, filled with both triumphs and tragedies. But I ask you to consider this. Every species represented in this chamber has faced similar struggles. Conflict, growth, and change are not unique to humanity. They are part of the universal journey of every sentient species." Powell then addressed Cora's testimony directly, emphasizing the Aetheran's view of humanity's unique potential. He highlighted the ways in which humanity had already contributed to the galaxy, citing examples of cooperation, innovation, and cultural exchange. "Humanity is not defined solely by its past," Powell continued. "We are a species capable of learning from our mistakes, of growing and evolving. The very fact that we are here today, standing before this council, is proof of our desire to be part of something greater. We do not seek to dominate or destroy. We seek to contribute, to share, and to learn from the vast diversity of life in this galaxy." He paused, allowing his words to sink in before delivering his final point. "Excluding humanity from the galactic community out of fear would be a grave mistake. It would isolate us, breed resentment, and drive us down a darker path. But if you choose to welcome us, to guide us, and to work with us, humanity can be a force for good. The Aetheran have seen this potential, and I ask you to see it too. Let us prove that we can be more than the sum of our past actions." Powell's words were met with a mixture of reactions. Some council members appeared moved, while others remained skeptical. But Powell had done all he could. The fate of humanity now rested in the hands of the council. Deliberation and decision. After the final arguments were presented, Judge Grow called for a recess, during which the council members would deliberate. The tension in the chamber was almost unbearable, as the members retreated to their private quarters to discuss and debate the future of humanity. Powell spent the next few hours in restless anticipation. He replayed every word of his argument in his mind, wondering if he had done enough to sway the council. The waiting was agonizing, but he knew that the decision was out of his hands. When the council reconvened, Judge Grow's expression was unreadable as he called the chamber to order. The council members took their seats, their faces reflecting a mix of emotions, some resolute, others conflicted. Judge Grow began with a formal statement. "The Galactic Council has deliberated on the matter of humanity's place in the galactic community. After careful consideration of all evidence and testimony, a decision has been reached." Powell held his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. "The council has decided," Judge Grow continued, "that humanity will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with certain conditions and oversight to ensure the safety and stability of the galaxy." A wave of relief washed over Powell, followed by a surge of pride. Humanity had done it. They had been accepted. The conditions. Judge Grow outlined the conditions. Humanity would be required to establish a dedicated diplomatic corps, undergo regular evaluations by the Council, and participate in joint peacekeeping missions to demonstrate their commitment to the greater good. Additionally, a special committee would be formed to monitor and guide humanity's integration into the galactic community. While these conditions were stringent, Powell understood their necessity. The Council needed to be reassured that humanity would not become a rogue element in the galaxy, and these measures would help build trust over time. A new beginning. As the session concluded, Powell felt a sense of accomplishment mixed with the weight of responsibility. Humanity had been given a chance to prove that they could be a positive force in the galaxy. The road ahead would be challenging, but it was also filled with opportunity. As Powell left the chamber, he was approached by Cora, who had remained silent during the final arguments. The Aetheran's silver eyes held a depth of understanding that transcended words. "You have done well, Ambassador," Cora said softly. "But remember, this is only the beginning. Humanity's true test lies ahead. The galaxy will watch and judge, but I have faith that you will rise to the occasion." Powell nodded, feeling both the weight of the challenge and the hope of a brighter future. "Thank you, Cora, for everything." With that, Cora disappeared into the shadows, leaving Powell to contemplate the journey that lay ahead. Humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer a question of if, but of how. And as Powell looked out at the stars, he knew that this was a journey they would undertake together, with courage, with wisdom, and with hope. A new dawn. The days following the Galactic Council's decision were a whirlwind of activity. News of humanity's acceptance into the Council spread across the galaxy like wildfire, sparking reactions from all corners of the cosmos. Some species welcomed the decision, viewing it as a sign of the Council's openness and willingness to evolve. Others were more skeptical, unsure if humanity could truly adapt to the responsibilities of being part of the greater galactic community. On Earth, the reaction was one of overwhelming relief and cautious optimism. The trials had been closely followed, with citizens around the world tuning in to watch their fate being decided by beings from beyond the stars. Now, with the decision made, humanity faced a new challenge, proving that they were worthy of the trust that had been placed in them. Ambassador George Powell returned to Earth as a hero, but he knew that the real work was just beginning. The Council's conditions were strict, and it was up to him and his team to ensure that humanity lived up to their end of the bargain. Building bridges, one of the first tasks was to establish the diplomatic corps that the Council had mandated. Powell was appointed as the head of this new organization, and he immediately set about assembling a team of the best and brightest minds from around the world. Scientists, diplomats, strategists, and cultural experts were brought together to form a group that would represent humanity on the galactic stage. The team's first priority was to build relationships with other member species. Powell knew that humanity needed allies, and he was determined to show that they were capable of cooperation and collaboration. He reached out to representatives from species that had been supportive during the trial, as well as those who had expressed doubts. Through a series of meetings, negotiations, and cultural exchanges, Powell's team began to lay the foundation for a new era of interspecies cooperation. One of the most significant breakthroughs came when Powell managed to broker a peace agreement between two species that had been locked in a centuries-old conflict. His success in this endeavor earned humanity a great deal of respect within the Council and helped to ease some of the lingering fears about their potential for violence. The Committee for Humanity's Integration. Meanwhile, the special committee that the Council had formed to monitor humanity's integration began its work. The committee was composed of representatives from various species, each bringing their own perspectives and concerns. Their role was to oversee humanity's progress, offer guidance, and ensure that they adhered to the conditions set by the Council. Powell and his team worked closely with the committee, providing regular updates on their activities and seeking advice on how to navigate the complex web of galactic politics. While there were occasional disagreements and misunderstandings, the overall relationship between humanity and the committee was one of mutual respect. The committee was particularly impressed by humanity's willingness to learn from other species. Powell made it a priority to incorporate alien technologies, philosophies, and cultural practices into human society, creating a unique blend of influences that enriched Earth's culture and advanced its technology. The first joint mission. One of the Council's conditions was that humanity participate in joint peacekeeping missions to demonstrate their commitment to the greater good. The first such mission was a daunting one. A rogue planet had been discovered on a collision course with a populated star system, and the Council had tasked a coalition of species with diverting the planet's trajectory. Humanity's role in the mission was initially a supporting one, with Earth's engineers and scientists providing technical assistance. However, when the mission encountered unexpected complications, Powell's team stepped up to take a leading role. Using a combination of human ingenuity and alien technology, they devised a solution that successfully altered the rogue planet's course, saving billions of lives. The success of the mission was a turning point for humanity's reputation in the galaxy. It proved that they were not only capable of contributing to the Council's efforts, but also that they could lead in times of crisis. The mission earned humanity widespread praise and further solidified their place in the galactic community. A new era. As the years passed, humanity's integration into the galactic community continued to deepen. The initial skepticism and fear that had surrounded their acceptance began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of trust and cooperation. Earth became a hub of interspecies interaction, with alien visitors becoming a common sight in cities around the world. The Council's oversight gradually lessened as humanity proved its commitment to peace and collaboration. New alliances were formed, and Earth became a key player in several major galactic initiatives, from scientific research to humanitarian aid. Powell, who had once been an ambassador fighting for humanity's place in the galaxy, now found himself leading efforts to help other emerging species find their footing within the Council. He took great pride in this role, knowing that humanity's own journey had prepared them to be mentors and allies to others. Reflections. On the 10-year anniversary of humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Council, a grand celebration was held on Earth. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in a massive ceremony to mark the occasion, and Powell was invited to give the keynote address. Standing before a crowd that included beings from every corner of the galaxy, Powell reflected on how far humanity had come. He spoke of the challenges they had faced, the lessons they had learned, and the bright future that lay ahead. He emphasized the importance of unity, understanding, and the shared responsibility of all species to work together for the betterment of the galaxy. As he concluded his speech, Powell looked out at the diverse faces before him, some familiar, others completely alien, and felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not through force or domination, but through cooperation, compassion, and the willingness to grow. The galaxy was vast and full of challenges, but it was also full of possibilities, and humanity, once seen as a potential threat, had become a beacon of hope and a symbol of what could be achieved when different species came together with a shared purpose. As the celebration continued long into the night, Powell knew that there were still many adventures and challenges ahead, but he also knew that humanity was ready for whatever the future held, confident in their place among the stars. Guardians of the Galaxy. A new role. As the years continued to pass, humanity's influence within the Galactic Council grew. Their successful integration and contributions to various galactic initiatives had earned them respect and recognition from many species. However, with this recognition came new responsibilities. The Council began to look to humanity not just as members but as leaders, capable of guiding others through the challenges of a vast and complex galaxy. George Powell, now an elder statesman, found himself once again at the forefront of these developments. The Council proposed the formation of a new division within its structure, the Guardians of the Galaxy, a coalition of species tasked with maintaining peace, exploring uncharted territories, and responding to emerging threats. Powell was chosen to lead this new initiative, a testament to the trust and admiration he had garnered over the years. Assembling the Guardians. The formation of the Guardians of the Galaxy was a monumental task. Powell needed to assemble a team composed of representatives from multiple species, each bringing their unique skills and perspectives. The goal was to create a unit capable of handling any situation that might arise, whether it be a diplomatic crisis, a natural disaster, or an encounter with a previously unknown civilization. Powell's first recruits were individuals he had worked with during humanity's early years in the Council, those who had proven themselves time and again in the face of adversity. He also sought out promising newcomers, beings who brought fresh ideas and energy to the table. The result was a diverse and dynamic team that embodied the best qualities of the galaxy's many species. The Guardians quickly became known for their effectiveness and versatility. Their first mission involved mediating a conflict between two star systems over control of a resource-rich asteroid belt. Thanks to the team's efforts, a peaceful resolution was reached, and the asteroid belt was transformed into a joint mining operation that benefited both sides. The threat of the void. As the Guardians' reputation grew, so too did the scope of their missions. They were called upon to explore regions of the galaxy that had long been shrouded in mystery, known only as the Void. These areas were believed to be the remnants of ancient cataclysms, filled with dangerous anomalies and strange phenomena. Many ships that ventured into the Void never returned, and those that did often came back damaged and with missing crew members. Despite the risks, Powell and the Guardians were determined to uncover the secrets of the Void. They saw it as their duty to chart these unknown territories and to protect the galaxy from any potential threats that might be lurking within. The first expedition into the Void was fraught with danger. The team encountered gravitational distortions that twisted spacetime, rogue black holes that appeared without warning, and sentient energy beings that defied all known laws of physics. Yet through teamwork, ingenuity, and sheer determination, the Guardians managed to navigate the hazards and make significant discoveries. One of the most startling findings was evidence of a long-lost civilization that had once thrived within the Void. This civilization, known as the Celestials, had harnessed advanced technologies that allowed them to manipulate matter and energy on a cosmic scale. However, their hubris had led to their downfall, as they inadvertently triggered the very cataclysms that had turned their home into the Void. A new threat emerges. The Guardians' exploration of the Void uncovered more than just ancient ruins. They also discovered signs that a new threat was emerging, a dark force that had been lying dormant for millennia. This force, known as the Abyssal Entity, was a remnant of the destructive energies unleashed by the Celestials. It was a being of pure entropy, capable of consuming entire star systems and leaving nothing but void in its wake. The Abyssal Entity had begun to stir, its influence spreading slowly but surely through the Void. Powell and the Guardians realized that they were the galaxy's first and last line of defense against this existential threat. They immediately began preparations for a confrontation, knowing that the fate of countless worlds depended on their success. The final battle. The battle against the Abyssal Entity was the most challenging mission the Guardians had ever faced. The entity's power was immense, and its very presence warped reality around it. The Guardians had to employ every trick, every piece of technology, and every ounce of courage. They had to stand a chance against it. The final confrontation took place in the heart of the Void, where the entity had begun to form a nexus of destruction. Powell led the charge, coordinating the efforts of his team as they launched a multi-pronged assault on the entity. They used celestial technology they had salvaged from ruins, combined with their own innovations, to weaken the entity and disrupt its connection to the Void. In a climactic moment, the Guardians succeeded in breaking the Abyssal Entity's hold on the Void. However, the victory came at a great cost. Several members of the team sacrificed themselves to ensure the entity's destruction, their names forever etched in the annals of galactic history as heroes who saved countless lives. Legacy of the Guardians. The defeat of the Abyssal Entity marked a turning point for the galaxy. The Guardians had proven that even the most insurmountable challenges could be overcome through unity, bravery, and determination. Their victory was celebrated across the galaxy, and they became legends in their own right. George Powell, now a living legend, chose to retire from active duty, passing the mantle of leadership to a new generation of Guardians. He spent his remaining years as an advisor and mentor, helping to shape the future of the Galactic Council and ensuring that humanity's legacy would endure for generations to come. The Guardians of the Galaxy continued to serve as protectors, explorers, and diplomats, carrying on the mission that Powell had begun. They were a symbol of what could be achieved when beings of different backgrounds and species came together for a common cause. And as the galaxy moved forward into a new era of peace and discovery, it was clear that humanity had not only found its place among the stars, but had become a guiding light for others to follow. The path that George Powell had forged was one that would be walked by many more in the years to come, as the Guardians of the Galaxy stood watch over the universe, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.